في أكبر الكتب.
Congratulations, you have found the Lambcast, the official podcast of the large association of movie blogs, also known as the Lamb. The Lamb is the largest collective of online movie blogs and podcasts with 2,000 members and counting. Every week on the Lambcast, various members of the Lamb community get together to talk about our favorite subject, movies. So bookmark the Lamb and follow us on social media. Be sure to join us each week to hear a lively discussion of films and movie-related talk from our members. Join the flock at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lambcast, a film podcast about whatever we want it to be every week. Isn't that fun? This is, of course, a part of the Lamb, aka the Large Association of Movie Blogs, and you've all just now subconsciously agreed to keep up with this week's nonsense. This is episode 810, 810, and your regular host, Richard Kirkham, is away this week. But as the winner of the Lambcast draft episodes 5 times in a row, I, Aaron Neuwirth, have taken it upon myself to pick up the ball and roll with it. Where is Richard, you might ask? Well, that's none of your business. But I hear he's getting rebooted somewhere, and he will be back fresher than ever soon enough. That's also a perfect way to start this episode, as we are talking about refreshing remakes. Yes, in a world where we get sequels, prequels, sidequels, legacy-quels, remakes, reboots, repeats, repeat and Pete, and the occasional reheat. It is actually nice once in a while to see something good come out of it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about remakes we actually quite like. And joining me on this refreshing journey are a few remakes of their own parents, younger and sharper. Coming in from the Northern Reel, it's Bad News Bears whenever this proud Canadian is around, as his hand is always ready to rock the cradle. It's Matthew Simpson.
Hi. Pleasure to be here. That's a great intro. Love it.
Also joining us from the Free Kittens Movie Guide. Many feel like going jungle to jungle with him, as they are usually swept away by the secret in his eyes. It's Dave Anderson.
Thanks for having me here, and you just had to rub in winning the draft 5 times in a row.
And lastly,
I don't know how you do it.
I don't either. just try my hardest.
I thought for sure I was going to beat you last time.
Lastly, from the direct-to-video connoisseur, the direct-to-video connoisseur himself, he's always close to causing a flubber as he likes to play rollerball in the fog while being well aware of how Bangkok dangerous this is. It's Matthew Poirier.
Thank you for having me on. Yes, Bangkok dangerous. I didn't even think of that as but hopefully I won't be too Bangkok dangerous.
I hope I chose none of the movies you guys planned to reference today. I feel like I'm pretty on the good ones, the good side of that. But I'm glad to have you all here gathered to go over refreshing remakes, a topic I actually quite enjoy because I do think there's a number of films that are remakes themselves that are quite good, even if they. There's some obvious ones I think that we all, think of when it comes to the good remakes, but I think there's other ones that we might want to represent that are good for this topic. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, we're going to just kind of go in a round cycle here, pick around 3 or 5, depending on how fast we're going, and talk about just remakes that we're big fans of. I have chosen no order for this whatsoever, so I'm just going to go with the order of the videos on my screen. I'm going to start with Matt. Matt, what is the first pick on your list of refreshing remakes?
So I had the Martin Scorsese Cape Fear. I enjoyed the early one. Luckily with this Cape Fear, I didn't know there was an original, but then I saw the review with Siskel and Ebert, and they said there was an original, that it was a remake. So I watched the remake first, and then actually my wife is a Scorsese fan, and she was like, "Oh, we should watch Cape Fear," and I hadn't seen it in a while, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like this. I like De Niro playing the Mitchum part there, where he's just like, I don't know, there's just something about
Max
him.
Cady.
Yes, exactly. He's so great there. I also like the inclusion of Ileana Douglas. I feel like she's kind of doing similar to like what Debbie Mazar did in Goodfellas. It just, makes it feel more 90s in there, and I appreciated that as well. So yeah, I just, Scorsese, he's a cinephile, and the cinephile comes out in this remake, I think.
Oh, for sure. It was a huge hit too. It was that was one. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Spielberg encouraged him to take on doing Cape Fear just to have a big hit on his hands, so he could kind of get a little bit more leeway for whatever his next project was going to be. Cape Fear's a fan, and De Niro's scary in that movie. Like he is
Yes.
not only is he a bastard, but he's pretty scary as as the mentor role.
Yeah.
But before we keep going, I wanted to ask, did any of you have, you kind of as it's your turn, did you have like a logic, Matt, to like the movies you're choosing in particular? Or?
So it
So
kind of just more like a personal thing. I think, I think for me, I'm one of those sticklers who always, like when I was thinking about remakes, I was like, oh, I don't really like that one better than the original. But I wanted to think of something that like didn't, I guess, hurt my sensibilities when it came to the original. So I picked a few that, yeah, and Cape Fear is one of those ones where I felt like I kind of liked it as a standalone on its own, but also felt like it was faithful enough to the original.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on Cape Fear?
Yeah, I love that movie. I love both versions, to be
Yeah,
fair.
they're
And I'm
both.
actually there's an upcoming TV remake for Apple TV that I'm actually very hyped about.
Yeah, Javier
Um,
Bardem is the.
as Max Cady, yeah, it looks great. I think it's a great story. I think that it's a great villain story. Like it has one of my favorite pieces of movie trivia involved in it, in that Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese actually traded. They were gonna
Oh, okay, there it is.
Spielberg was gonna direct this, and Scorsese was gonna direct Schindler's List, and they traded.
I feel like it
So
worked out.
imagine that timeline. Like that's a very interesting thought experiment. But yeah,
De Niro in the Amon Goth role. You
yeah.
looking at me?
Um,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean, it's such a great villain movie. Like, it doesn't really. I would say that Gregory Peck and
Mitchum.
uh,
Mitchum.
no, wow, guy's name just went out of my head. Nick Nolte are both
Nolte.
really good.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Um,
yeah.
as the sort of like the good guy. But I think this movie is really made or broken by the villain performance, and in both cases, it's chilling and really like iconic. So yeah, I love these movies. I can't wait for someone to do like a really nice 4K of both of them, to be honest.
And the remake, of course, has Juliette Lewis in an earlier role too, and she got an Oscar nomination for her efforts. And we forgot about the third remake, of course, the Simpsons episode Cape Fear with Sideshow Bob. Very important.
that's my personal favorite.
It starts the rake gag, rake.
It does. And
Dave.
again,
No, sorry.
Hinges on the villain. So
Very much
yeah,
so.
we're
Yes.
supports the thesis.
Dave, let's go to you next. What's your first pick here?
Okay, the films on my list are not in any particular order, and I wouldn't consider all of them great, though a couple of them are. My main criteria is that in one way or another, each manages to at least justify its existence. Where I went, yeah, okay, I can see why they remade that. I also tried to stay away from remakes that have become iconic or ones that I've discussed on other Lambcasts. And I'm going to start off with what I think is the greatest remake ever made, and that's William Friedkin's Sorcerer
Ah,
from 1977. It's been one of my favorite films since I was 13, and I caught it at the bottom half of a double feature back when they still did those things. Uh, and I suppose it was odd for a middle schooler to love such a movie at a time when Star Wars was everything. In fact, Sorcerer famously kind of got crushed at the box office under the wheels of Star Wars. And the only reason I saw Sorcerer is because it was the only movie at the fourplex by my house I hadn't watched yet. But I fell in love with every aspect of this film: the dark tone, the imagery, the gritty aesthetic, the set pieces, especially the rickety bridge sequence. I loved Tangerine Dream's score, and I think this is the first film I ever watched where all the characters were morally ambiguous at best. And I'd always been a big Roy Scheider fan, and this is the first thing I saw him in after seeing Jaws, and I thought he was terrific. And I love the premise: four fugitives who end up in a poverty-ravaged village where escape means buying your way out, and the only way out is to take this job transporting nitroglycerin to the jungle in these really rickety old trucks. So these are four guys with nothing left to lose. And it's kind of a slow burn movie, but the action sequences are amazing in this film. And this is back in the days before CGI, and I know this was a huge troubled production and an expensive one, but it looks terrific. And what I didn't know for many years is that Sorcerer was actually a remake of The Wages of Fear. And I saw that one years later, and it's also an excellent film. It's just as bleak, and it's got a lot of cynicism thrown in for good measure. But it took time and maturity for me to warm up to it. And I still prefer Sorcerer's aesthetic and its characters, probably because it's the version I grew up on. And another thing I didn't know until just recently is that Sorcerer wasn't even the first remake of The Wages of Fear. There's a little-seen American film from the 50s called Violent Road that doesn't officially acknowledge the movie or the book, kind of like how Kurosawa was never credited for inspiring the Magnificent Seven. But it's got the exact same plot, just with a lower budget. And then Wages of Fear was remade yet again in 2024 as one of those, disposable Netflix movies, and it's god awful. I don't know if either of you have seen that one.
Never took the time.
Don't bother. It's they turned it into the Fast and the Furious. So for me, Sorcerer is the best adaptation of the original novel, and I still revisit it every year. It's still an amazing film.
It's always wild to me that the original, the remake bombed in, like, granted, yes, like Star Wars is out, but at the same time, if you told me that there's a movie in theaters about 4 fugitives that have to transport nitroglycerin across the like, I'm hooked by that plot. Like, that just sounds like so cool to me. Even without like movie stars, if only you have Roy Scheider. Like, going into it, I don't know any of that. I don't know that, there's 3 different introductions that are not in English before I get to Roy Scheider's character and then get to the movie itself. If I just hear that plot line, that would like just immediately grab me. So I maybe Warner Brothers just messed up in the marketing. I don't know what's going on there. But,
hey, try explaining it to your 13-year-old friends on the playground what a great movie this is, and they look at you with these blank stares.
There's these guys that got to transport a bomb across the forest. It's amazing. Like, I don't know.
and they can't go any faster than 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's reverse speed. What speed? It's a movie that's going to come out in the 90s. You'll worry about it later. It's fine. But yeah, I love Sorcerer as well. I'm a bit younger, and I did not discover it until when the Warner Brothers Blu-ray came out. It was a cool like digipack Blu-ray. So it was, a lot of people such as myself kind of discovered or rediscovered this movie, but it rules. And like since then, it's since gotten its fancy 4K release, and I'm happy that it's in wider circulation and many people can discover it as well, because it really is a terrific film.
The 4K release is pretty amazing.
The Criterion Edition 4K that I picked up this year is incredible.
Got a great documentary with it too.
What, Matt?
It's the William Friedkin documentary he made shortly before he died.
Yeah, I need to see this one. I saw Wages of Fear. I've seen the Criterion, when I had Netflix, when you had discs, you could get discs sent to you. I watched that, and I love William Friedkin. I think, like Boys in the Band, it's a movie I've always really loved. And so I've been meaning to see this one. So now, Dave, you mentioning it, I've like, yeah, I definitely got to see it. I think probably one reason why it probably didn't do well against Star Wars. Star Wars was one of those movies that people went and saw multiple times. Yeah. And it's like, kind of just.
And it's fun. I mean, the word of mouth, like, despite as cool as the premise is, it's not exactly an upper when you're watching it. You're not running away being like, the Millennium Falcons help save the day. Like, you're just like, all these guys, they really had a rough one.
It'll never happen. But this is the kind of movie that I would absolutely love for Star Wars to remake. Like, just do Sorcerer, but on a Star Wars
planet. They kind of did. There's an episode of The Mandalorian that's very reminiscent of Sorcerer. Like, they obviously.
Oh, yes, that's true.
But there is that one. There's like, they have to like transport something. It's very specifically seemingly themed around, almost as like a joke, like an in joke, as far as like, hey, remember when we ran over this movie in theaters? I forgot to do it ourselves.
just feel like it could be like, it's one of the ones that could be pretty evergreen. Like Star Wars has remade The Magnificent Seven like three or
Yeah,
four times when you count like Clone Wars and all that.
yeah, for sure.
So I feel like this is one that, Solo could have been this. When doing the Kessel Run. It's a great, simple but effective premise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Matthew, let's go to you. What's your first pick here?
So my criteria was pretty much I wanted to try to think about ones that I assumed you guys wouldn't pick. So, like, I was pretty sure that Cape Fear was going to come up. I was pretty sure that Sorcerer was going to come up. There's a couple other ones that I'm pretty sure are going to come up. Um, so I was trying to think about ones that we don't necessarily think about as remakes. And so my first pick is the 1941 classic, The Maltese Falcon, starring Humphrey Bogart, which is a remake of a film that came out 10 years before. Um, both versions of that movie are good, but the 41 version is the classic, the iconic, the sort of like prototypical noir film. Great performance by everyone involved, but in particular Bogart and Mary Astor. And it's classic for a reason. And it's actually one that I'm kind of surprised hasn't been remade like a million times. I know it has been remade, but it hasn't been remade like, once a decade in a big way ever since. Because again, pretty evergreen premise. And yeah, I say so. Also, one that I feel like most people don't really realize is a remake. It's the one we think about the Maltese Falcon. This is what we think about. Most people don't think about the prior film. Most people don't think about the novel even, which is also good. Um, but it is in fact a remake, so I thought I'd try to highlight that one.
Call me weird, but my favorite scene from that film is uh, the day after Humphrey Bogart's partner is killed. He's having his name scraped off the door to their office. It says a lot about his character. Pretty much immediately establishes him as a kind of an anti-hero.
Okay, so you're weird, but that's still a great scene. That
Yeah. The other thing too about this movie is that I think it's one of only like four that made AFI's top, 100 years, 100 movies that the novel it was adapted from made Modern Library's top 100 books of the 20th century. I know like Clockwork Orange was one, off the top of my head, but yeah, Maltese Falcon was one of the few that and of course I saw the Bogart version before I read the book. But yeah, definitely both are really great.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that's sort of the story, right? Like everyone thinks about the movie. Most people don't even necessarily think of it as an adaptation of a book, but it is. And the book is also really interesting in that it's. I don't know how recently you've read it, but it's also very interesting in that if you read the book and then watch the movie, it is such a direct adaptation. Like there's very few liberties taken, and a lot of the dialogue is exactly the same. It's almost like reading a screenplay. It's kind of great though, kind of refreshing. Um, and again, it's just like people just don't think of it that way. So I wanted to, I have a personal gripe with people who are like, Hollywood is all remakes today. So I want to start with one that just highlights it, like how Hollywood has been remakes the whole time.
Yeah.
So,
They like money, and you know what
yeah,
guarantees money? Refreshing a thing you liked already. I think
yeah,
that's a pretty
exactly.
guaranteed way to get some money.
Yeah. Like it's not exactly related, but everyone who's like, the MCU ruined cinema because they put out so many movies that are exactly the same in such a short amount of time. There was eight The Saint movies between like 1948 and 1952. Like it's just, it's not a new pattern, is all I'm trying to say.
All right. And yeah, Maltese Falcon rules. I mean, it's great. It's a fantastic movie. The more I feel like I've learned a lot about Sidney Greenstreet in recent years for whatever reason. Like I've just suddenly like started like understanding like how like brief of a career he had and how late it was when he actually started. It's like this guy's fascinating and he's so compelling. When he enters the along it's a terrific cast all around. Peter, I love Peter Lorre. Anybody coming into Maltese Falcon is just like they're just nailing it. But like Sidney Greenstreet's such like a interesting big presence and like he the movie's not short on life already, and then he suddenly like adds another dimension to it. It's like, God, this movie just got everything going for it.
Well, you're right about
Um,
his career too. He only worked in the like in literally only in the 40s.
yeah,
And when he started, I think he was born in like 1880 or something. So like
yeah,
he
he was
was
already like in his
already
60s,
in his
like
50s or 60s.
yeah.
So yeah, he's an interesting character for sure.
All right, so I tried to break this down. If we end up doing five, which I think we can possibly get that in, I think that people are fun. I broke it down this way because there's like a lot of remakes I do enjoy. So I broke it down to have different categories that I could choose to put one in. So I have a blockbuster, a just as good as the original, a better than the original, a horror film, and a remake of a bad movie. And so I'm going to start with my blockbuster, and that is King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong, specifically, since there are multiple King Kongs at this point. I love this movie. I go to I yeah, and this is where we get into some hot water territory for some. I think this is Peter Jackson's best movie. That's how much I love King Kong. Um, I have heard the people that want to. I've heard what they've had to say about what they think are flaws in this movie, as far as perhaps Jack Black's casting or some CG of the dinosaurs, because God help us if we don't have dinosaurs looking exactly how we know they looked when we were all alive 65 million years ago. But I think the effort Jackson put into what was clearly a passion project, to remake one of his all-time favorite movies and like deliver it in the way he does, where it is not only like a compelling piece of like spectacle as far as just the grandeur of seeing Skull Island, let alone Depression era New York and whatnot, with unlimited money he had to do so. But the drama he adds to it, I think Naomi Watts, I believe, gives an Oscar-worthy performance in this film. I think she's so terrific in the way she interacts with Kong and leans into the emotion of it. And it all feels very like real. I don't take for granted what Jackson's trying to get out of the emotion of of that relationship, along with the fact that it's just a kick-ass action movie. I mean, if you ask my dad and I talk about this a lot. If you ask my dad one of his favorite movie scenes of all time, it's when King Kong fights three different Tyrannosaurus Rexes at once while holding Ann Darrow in his hand. It's like the I like Lord of the Rings fine. I'm not the biggest ringer, but I certainly respect that trilogy. I think it's full of amazing sequences or whatnot. The action here is incredible. Like just watching King Kong negotiate scenes where he's fighting dinosaurs and while holding a human being, or going around New York and doing what he does there. All that stuff I think is so wonderful, and it just the bigness of it all. Like this is maximalist filmmaking at its finest for me. So I'm just a huge. I love King. I'm wearing a King Kong shirt right now. I love King Kong. King Kong 33 is another one of my favorite movies. But like the fact that he was able to take that movie, a defining classic as far as special effects at an early time in history go and whatnot, and then make his own run with it and make it just a fantastic new understanding of how that movie works. I think it's fantastic. I've always been a huge fan.
I agree that it's Peter Jackson's best movie.
Hey, all right.
It's 3 hours that doesn't feel like 3 hours.
No.
I love that he keeps it set in the 30s, and you know, and he manages to make Skull Island a terrifying place.
Yeah.
Uh, the scene that gets to me the most are those
The bugs.
those
The
bugs.
leeches,
Yeah,
the leeches.
the
When and
leeches for
when
sure.
Andy Serkis gets like a big old worm like on his head, and he's doing like, oh, kids are watching this, and he's like, he's just getting devoured. It's great.
Freaking
My favorite thing about this
creepy.
movie, and I'll be right up front that like King Kong 33 is literally one of my top five films of all time.
Fair
So
enough. Yeah,
I I don't dislike this movie, but I definitely like the original more.
it's a tough ask.
Yeah, it's a tough
I
ask.
get that. Yeah.
Um, but one thing I do really like objectively love about this film is with scenes like the one we just talked about. This film, more than Lord of the Rings, really reminds you that Peter Jackson's got his start making horror movies,
Oh yeah.
like low budget, gnarly as hell horror movies. Because there's some horrific stuff in this movie that I feel like I think part of the reason I maybe don't like it as much is that I feel like there's a couple of like some jarring tonal stuff between like the fun 30s adventure and also the existentially terrifying bugs and horrors. Um, but it's still it's too well made of a movie to not like it's and you're right, the Skull Island in particular is excellent and the I really love that he seemed to, after Lord of the Rings was given all the money in the world, and he was just like, let's just rebuild 30s New York. Like, I love when directors take big swings like that. It's
Even
great.
without the Kong stuff, like just his depiction of like vaudeville era, I'm like, this is I'd watch a movie about this, about just these
Hmm.
struggling like actor folk that like can't make it. Like it's just really compelling.
I will say, and maybe I'm in a minority here too, though, because it's already been mentioned, but like, I think Jack Black is fine in this movie. I don't think
I
he's a problem at all.
I do too. I think he's playing exactly what he needs to be doing as this kind of craven director that's eventually realizes the wrong of his ways.
Yeah, and I think also I think it came out at a time when we had a very specific image of Jack Black, and it doesn't play to that image at all.
Yeah.
It plays to the fact that he is in fact actually quite a talented actor, and I think that there was some backlash around that probably because in isolation, it's a great performance. It's exactly what it needs to be, as you said, and I really love the like repeated motif of him being like, we're gonna, dedicate it and give all the money to their kids, like every time somebody dies. It's such a great, it's performed so well each time. You can tell just how much he doesn't believe it each time,
Hmm.
like each a little bit more every time.
Hmm.
Because he's sort of just falling into this salesman mode. I think it's actually a really terrific performance. I don't really get why people don't like it.
Now, for me, I can't say this is my favorite Peter Jackson movie because Bad Taste is out there, and that's the one my friends and I were introduced to Peter Jackson through that movie in the early '90s. When he started doing the Lord of the Rings movies, we were excited for that. I think the one thing I like about this movie, I'm also in the same camp of the 33 one, is just I just absolutely love that movie, and I don't. This one doesn't quite touch that for me, and also again, Bad Taste is always going to be on the pedestal for me for Peter Jackson, but the idea that what he did in '87 with Bad Taste, over like multiple years, summers with his friends and all that, to then get to that point where he's got the budget to be able to make something like this, it's almost kind of like this. I don't know, say I'm like proud because I was, only like, a teenager when we were first, so it's not like he's, I would, but it was kind of this thing like you're seeing someone like grow into this like level of director. And I think this is what I would have wanted. This is the kind of movie I would want him to make with the budget he had. It really fits what I like about his stuff, and so I definitely can see why this would be included on a remix. It didn't make my list. I probably maybe I should have considered it, because I feel like this is truer to Bad Taste than like the Lord of the Rings movies and that kind of thing.
I tend to consider myself like the biggest fan of King Peter Jackson's King Kong, so I was like, this is gonna be on my list. This is the one I'm gonna take right away.
I mean, I will say that knowing that you're a person who hosts a literal podcast about giant monsters
Sure.
is not
Yeah.
shocking to me that you like the giant monster movie. And also, I love
True to
that,
form.
and I love that we have that in common because
True to
giant
form.
monsters are awesome.
There we go. All right, back to Matt. What's your next pick?
So, kind of going in the reverse direction, from Matthew, where he did Bogart in a remake. I'm doing a remake of a Bogart movie. I'm doing Desperate Hours.
Ooh.
I love that era of Mickey Rourke, and growing up, in the '80s and '90s. I remember whenever we'd have like a free HBO weekend or whatever, it feels like there was a lot of Mickey Rourke on there. Things like Pope of Greenwich Village, Barfly. And Desperate Hours kind of fits that sort of that era of Mickey Rourke that I really like. And then, later when I got into Humphrey Bogart's career, and it was kind of like the early 2000s in that DVD era where everything was available on cheap DVDs, and I saw, oh, there's, this was a remake, and it was Humphrey Bogart who made this. I was surprised. I thought I was going to watch the Humphrey Bogart one and then watch the Mickey Rourke one after and not like the Rourke one as much, but I really like what Rourke brings to that. And of course, you've got Anthony Hopkins, as the lead in that as well. Yeah, so I just normally I would say, oh, you're remaking a Bogart film. Why can't we just watch the Bogart movie? But I actually like this one, and I like that era of Mickey Rourke. That always worked for me.
I didn't know there was a remake of Desperate Eye. It's a Cimino film, so of course Mickey Rourke. Yeah, makes sense. Like,
Yes,
right.
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I like because I liked it. I recently just watched Desperate Hours for the first time actually with the Bogart one, and I was like, this is a really gritty little cool movie. I didn't know I didn't know there was a remake.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm gonna go on my list. I'm excited to watch
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say because I, like a bad cinema fan, have not seen either one.
I don't
Yeah,
have anything to say other than the Bogart one is untouchable, and I can't stand Michael Cimino except for The Deer Hunter. And this Desperate Hours didn't change my mind.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I
Just a
don't
little
think
too overwrought for my liking. Anthony Hopkins is good, and uh, Mickey Rourke is an acquired taste that I haven't yet acquired.
yeah, it might be an age thing too, because so I was born in '79, so like kind of as the '80s were going on, and I was first sort of getting into seeing movies and things like that. Work was popping up a lot of places, and there's like a coolness factor that maybe like me at that age that I see that like obviously the modern Mickey Rourke, right, which I see him in a lot of direct to video movies that I cover on my site. So it's a very different Mickey Rourke from that Mickey Rourke there. But he was always compelling for me as someone who's like growing up and learning about movies. So that could possibly play into it a bit too.
Fair enough. All right, Dave, what's your next pick?
Okay, I don't know. I might catch a little bit of hell for this one, but uh, I really enjoyed the remake of Death Wish, the one directed by Eli Roth that had Bruce Willis in it. Um, I know the original had a big cultural impact, and it's the one that Charles Bronson's most remembered for, and for good reason. I don't think it was such a sacred cow that a remake was out of the question, since Hollywood's been kind of doing that ever since anyway. And it seems fitting that reimagining a film like this would be done by someone with the audacity of Eli Roth. And considering Roth's reputation, he actually shows a surprising amount of restraint here.
Yeah.
Uh, the movie's still brutal as hell, but it doesn't descend into depravity. And in fact, I think he actually pulls a lot of his punches. Uh, Most notably, the initial invasion sequence. The original had that rape scene that is still difficult to watch. And I don't know if Eli Roth just felt he just couldn't approach that one or couldn't top that one or or what, but um, I was surprised that he didn't really even try to, sink even lower in depicting that sequence. Uh, and not to diss the original film, but it did tend to glorify vigilantism. And it also really wasn't a revenge film, even though it's always considered one. But in the original film, Paul Kersey never hunted down the punks who took his family away. He simply snapped and started walking the streets to lure muggers before shooting him. But in this one, Kersey actively seeks out specific criminal targets, carjackers, drug dealers, and eventually the very, people who killed his wife. Um, so this one is definitely a revenge picture. And like the first, the original film, he becomes a media sensation. Uh, and I kind of like how uh, this version kind of amusingly, presents it all through talk radio programs and YouTube and internet memes. It's kind of a sign of the times. None of this makes Death Wish a better film than the original. It's bigger and louder and gorier, and maybe more skillfully crafted. Uh, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. Bruce Willis doesn't, go beyond his comfort zone, but it's one of his last decent performances, in my opinion. And the movie's a lot of fun. Bad timing, of course, when it came out, but
The number of things you said that are different about it from the original are like why I'm not huge on it. That said, I'm not
mhm.
huge on the original Death Wish either for similar, I, like yes, it's the glorification factor. Like it's like this weird borderline exploitation film, right? Because it's like a Charles
Mhm.
Bronson studio movie, but at the same time, it's like ugly. But it's the '70s, so it's like kind of expect ugly when it comes to these kinds of movies. At the same time, when you have Eli Roth directing a remake of it, you don't really expect him to, yeah, have restraint and pull back his punches. I'm not saying I need a rape scene to like make me feel better about watching a Death Wish remake, but at the same time, it's like if you're gonna remake Death Wish and you're like known for, the hostile films and all these, these gory graphic things, like it's weird that this is the one where you're like, yeah, this is the one I'm gonna say, I'm gonna hold back on doing more with. Uh, I can't. There's scenes that work. There's a couple like, especially when it comes to like, there's one scene I recall where like Bruce Willis is in like an auto shop and he like crushes a guy off the car on the thing, like on
Oh
the.
yeah,
It's like it's just like stuff.
there's the Roth we
Yeah,
know and love.
there's stuff there that works, and I do agree that like I remember Willis himself was like. I tried. Like he acknowledged the fact that he's been doing a lot of like DTV crap, and he's like, yeah, I tried on this one. Now we all know, of course, that Willis was going through a lot of, obvious health issues and whatnot. So like his efforts are, you gotta kind of take them with a grain of salt. But it is also hard to see Willis in particular as like that, as like the guy that's too weak to save his family, or it's like he built a career off of not being. It's like it's hard
Hmm.
to see him as like the proper lead choice compared to other actors that might feel a little more like believably like pushed to an edge, where Willis is like he's kind of already there, I think. But
Well, he's a better. I know at one time Sylvester Stallone was trying to get this made with him
yeah,
in the
that's
starring role.
nonsense. Like
Yeah, so
that's not a rule.
Though Stallone was it the prisoner of was it prisoner? I don't can't remember the number, 42nd Street, something like that, where or there's a Jack Lemmon movie where he thinks he gets mugged by Sylvester Stallone and he
yeah.
tackles him and starts attacking him. So if Stallone can bring that energy, maybe he could do the early part of Death Wish, and then yeah, I don't know. Just
If they
remember
made
when
it,
you go
I was gonna say if they made it now, it'd be Bob Odenkirk apparently, right? He'd be
right,
like,
right, exactly. Yes, that's
it'd
right.
be newly dubbed action star Bob Odenkirk, and I believe it. I believe Bob Odenkirk would be like a guy that's like, oh, I can't defend my family. Then he's like, now I'm fucking jacked, and we can go after.
Be fine with that. Honestly, I enjoy action star Bob Odenkirk.
I do too.
I think he's 3 for 3 so far with the action movies he's made. So
I haven't
Yeah,
I
seen the
really,
new one.
I just very much enjoy. So I haven't seen the new Death Wish. I never did. Not a huge fan of the original, but I'm just going to chime in and say that I really enjoy that there's a certain age where actors hit and suddenly they are just in a whole string of dad action movies.
yeah,
And I enjoy that Bob Odenkirk is in that period right now.
I'd like to
yeah,
think they have jackets just like SNL.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one yet either. I was sort of, I don't know, I was kind of put off by the concept of it. 'Cause I tend to like with the, one of the things that was interesting for me doing this remakes episode, because a lot of times remakes, I'm like, I don't want to, I'm one of those kinds of people. But the Death Wish movies were another ones that I kind of grew up with in the 80s. They were on TV a lot. They were these sort of censored versions, of course, on broadcast, super stations or whatever. And of course, as you get older, you realize like, okay, there's a lot of problematic issues in those movies. But at the time, it was like sort of like taking Bronson as a Western star and putting the Western in New York City. And then when Canon takes over and they're doing all of these Bronson movies, including all these Death Wish remakes, it's like, you know, they kind of put the Western in all these other places as well. Yeah, so maybe I should watch this just to kind of get a sense of how it compares to the other ones. But yeah, I think those Death Wish movies for me, I've just always kind of got a kick out of them because of it's just sort of this unabashed. I mean, when you get to like the third or fourth ones where he's like got, I think at the fifth one he's got a soccer ball, like remote control soccer ball that he blows somebody up with. We start to get into rocket launchers and things like that. It kind of gets off the rails, which I kind of like that kind of action. So that kind of hearing that Eli Roth toned it down a little bit is interesting to kind of see what that ends up looking like.
This just reminds me of the Simpsons gag where they show Death Wish 12 on TV and it's just Charles Bronson in bed saying, I wish I was dead.
Have any of you seen Death Sentence, the James Wan film?
I've seen that one.
I like that one quite a bit with Kevin Bacon in the Paul Kersey role. Like it's not cause it's another Brian Garfield novel, I believe. But it's not Death Wish, but it's basically the same kind of a thing, right? Um,
I haven't thought about that movie since I saw it, and yeah, it was pretty good.
I
I seem
enjoyed
to
it. It's
remember.
like it's his third because it's he does Saw, then he does the puppet movie. What is it? Dead Silence, and then he does
Hmm.
uh Death Sentence. They're like I enjoy this. This is pretty solid with Kevin Bacon. There's like a couple like cool like James Wan's a good camera guy, and there's a couple like ingenious camera things going on in that one. And John Goodman's anyway. It's a decent kind of take on that same kind of story as well. Matthew, what's next?
I'm gonna go a different direction this time, just tonally from what we've been talking about. And my next pick is the 2016 David Lowery version of Pete's Dragon, which is
Ah,
an excellent, wonderful, heartwarming film that also happens to be a remake of a very boring concept film from the 1970s by Disney.
Damn, that was on my list.
Uh,
it's a good
I
movie.
mean, it should be. I think
Very
it's one of the better remakes. It's certainly this, there's the whole trend of Disney live action remakes, and this is easily for me the best of those. I don't know if it necessarily counts among some of the other ones because the original is like a mix of live action and hand-drawn
It's
animation.
it's a Disney remake. I mean,
But it's a Disney remake,
yeah.
and I think it's easily the best of them, especially at least for the last like 10 or 15 years. I guess I have to say 15 now because I think it's 11 years old. Um, uh, but it's just such like David Lowery, who went on to do like The Green Knight and A Ghost Story and Mother Mary's in cinemas now.
Mhm.
That dude knows how to string emotions together in film, and this movie is, I think, a perfect family film, um, and one that is both approachable to children and resonant for adults, and excellently performed all around. The kid whose name has just gone out of my brain is really, really great. The CGI effects for the dragon himself are legitimately wonderful, and he has a very different look from what you would expect most dragons to look like. Um, and it just really gets to the core of like family and love and heart. And I was blown away by this. This movie reduced me to tears the first time I saw it, and in complimentary. Um, and I really wish that it had been a bigger hit. And it's one of those ones where you're like, David Lowery did a Disney movie. How's that going to turn out? Ah, well, turns out the answer is great because David Lowery is great. So yeah, Pete's Dragon. If you haven't seen it, definitely see it. It's wonderful.
You know what, Matthew? I was debating between putting Pete's Dragon and or the Jungle Book on my list,
Hmm.
and I went with Pete's Dragon, thinking, okay, no one's going to stick this on their list. So thanks a lot on that one. Um,
I mean, I chose Pete's Dragon specifically because I thought somebody would choose the Jungle Book. So that works out pretty well, I think.
Well, it's great because like between Cinderella, which is 2015, Jungle Book 2016, and then Pete's Dragon, that was a period where like I guess these can be good. Like there was a
Yeah.
nice run there where regardless of how much you like them, I do think those are all I would say those are the best of these of this current era of live action Disney remakes. I think those ones all kind of handle what they're trying to do the best without feeling like too bland or anonymous compared to Beauty and the Beast or that
I think they're the ones that bring the most new flavor to the story,
they bring flavor
right?
and they feel like a director worked on them as opposed to they were there to monitor the process of it being done.
well,
So,
not only
Yeah,
that,
and like Beauty and the Beast in particular is one where like I don't think it's a bad film exactly. I think it's too well made and well acted to be bad, but there's no reason to watch it,
it just kind of sits
right?
there. The same with
Like
The
it's
Lion
just
King. It's like I
it's the same movie. Like it's
yeah,
literally the same movie. There's nothing to really set it apart other than that it's, you know, I was 75% real people.
they can
You know,
prove they
like
can do it and then they can make money off it, which is like
yeah.
I get the enterprise of it all. But yeah, I mean to get back to the good side of things, yes, Pete's Dragon is wonderful and it sits in this area where it felt like Disney was actually like, we can take a chance on something like this because Pete's Dragon, the original, is not a great movie, wasn't a huge success. Why not do something new with it? And yeah, David Lowery, of all people, who I also agree, I'm a big fan of David Lowery's. I like his films quite a bit. I just saw Mother Mary, which is at the very least interesting. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, he has such this warm and low key approach to the material, and you have uh, just this wonderful realization of the way it looks like the forest is coming to life in the form of a beastie. Like it's just neat to think, and yeah, the story it's telling, and Robert Redford's there. I'm still wondering if he knew what he was talking about. If he was like, oh, there's a dragon in this, I guess I don't know. Uh, but no, it's a very nice movie to watch for sure. Very ties into some good emotions.
I think both the Jungle Book and Pete's Dragon. I know there's a lot of nostalgic fondness for the Jungle Book, but uh, Disney needs, if they're going to keep doing the remake thing. I like the fact that these two movies the originals weren't that great to begin with, like you said. Uh, this one had me holding out hope that maybe they might take another shot at the black hole, because that movie was terrible with the potential of being a great film. Um,
That movie terrified me when
There's
I was
still
a child.
time.
I
There's still
suppose.
they can still make it. They can call it Black Hole, the fun version.
Or at least like lean fully into it being a horror film. Like I think that's the thing, right? The ones we've all sort of agreed are good. all have something new to bring to the story and themes, and the ones that were all like, oh yeah, this is going to cynically make $1 billion are the ones that are like shot for shot, scene for scene remake of the thing they're remaking. And I
Hmm.
think like Black Hole would actually be a great one to remake, but put it under like Searchlight or something that's gonna let it be a proper horror movie, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, so I think that could be an incredible film.
Yeah.
Should figure out how to pitch that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
I agree. All right. My next film, I'm at the just as good category, and I'm going to choose a film from the directors of films such as Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War and You, Me, and Dupree. That is, of course, Anthony and Joe Russo, who directed a film called Welcome to Collinwood, a remake of the film Big Deal on Madonna Street. Um, I'm choosing this film because I don't think nearly enough people know about this film, or let alone recognize that it's a wonderful little heist caper that has a terrific cast. Sam Rockwell, William H. Macy, Michael Jeter, Luis Guzman, Patricia Clarkson, Jennifer Esposito, Gabrielle Union, Clooney in a small role. It's produced by Clooney and Soderbergh. Um, I I discovered this film just at random on TV once I saw like a part of it, and I was like into the dialogue being exchanged. And so then I subsequently went and rented the film, and I was like, this is great. This is like 80 minutes of screwball farce fun, and it has this it. It's in this world where there's this stylized heist language. They all have little like uh, there's a there's a scene in like Ocean's 11 where they're kind of like using like lingo that's like only like people in the know like understand it. This whole movie's like made up of stuff like that, where they're all talking in like code speak when it comes to the heist stuff. But on top of that, there's like zany antics involving the actual heist itself and the lead up to it, and the kind of there's like random relationships that form, and there's just things about the characters to come to understand. It's a lot of fun. I really really enjoy this film. I've seen Big Deal on Madonna Street, which is like a very fun movie as well. It was like this is I mean I can't distinguish between the two of like which one's like ultimately better. So I'm like, yeah, no, this is just a really solid movie coming from guys that would go on to make these mega blockbusters and also say that Netflix is the way to go and theatrical sucks. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't like that, but I like your first film quite a bit. So there.
I don't think I've seen either of those.
I've seen Welcome to Collinwood, and I think that it is a totally fine movie. I actually it's pretty low, like it's pretty split on Rotten Tomatoes, right? I think it's sitting at like 50% or something.
Yeah,
And I
something like that.
remember that I remember because I'm old enough now to remember that that movie came out like 2003,
Two,
4,
two,
2,
two.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like I remember people saying like being very divided on it. And I think it's fine, you know. But I've never seen the original. I would like to, but um I'm just chiming in to say that I think it being divisive supports my thesis that the Russo brothers are not actually very good directors. So I know I might be in the minority on that because they made a couple of movies people love, but I don't get it. I don't get it. So
They have great TV work.
they
Um,
do. They do. I know. I don't let me hijack the conversation, but I really don't. I don't like basically any of their films except for the two Avengers movies they made. So
They
see,
did this Winter Soldier, right? That was also
See, I
them.
think Winter Soldier is
Okay.
their strongest of their MCU
I
efforts
was
because
gonna
it feels
say.
like the one that was the one that where they felt they had to prove themselves, where the rest just feel like
yeah, I said don't let me hijack the
fair enough.
conversation.
I just pointed out.
But but
It's,
the Winter Soldier, I think, is the strongest story of the ones they have directed. And I think it is the best one, probably of the ones they've directed, despite them.
Well, the other
fair
point you
enough.
can make about Winter Soldier is it was action directed by Spiro Rosatos, one of the best in the business, and so and he really puts his stamp on it. And so maybe that's another point in your favor, Matthew, if you're saying the Russos, it was in spite of the Russos or something like that. You know, Spiro Rosatos might have also been a reason for that too, maybe.
Yeah,
I'll just
maybe,
peel away to
probably.
not get this into too much of an MCU discussion on our remake episode because
Yeah,
I have thoughts because
Same,
I
same.
because I also like I'm so dissuaded by the way they've publicly treated film and where they're like, Netflix, yeah, check out The Gray Man and Cherry. Isn't this great? Oh, look at how great. And they're like, all right, I guess we'll go back to making giant Avengers movies and getting those paychecks. I
Hey,
don't
remember the time they tried to dunk on Martin Scorsese and it failed epically? Anyway, we should stop talking about the Russos because I could be here all goddamn day.
I will still recommend Welcome to Collinwood as a perfectly fine movie that's very fun. And if you like Sam Rockwell, because who doesn't? He's just so electric and fun in this kind of thing, just being like the lead of a group of heist of like of thieves.
It is, it's been years since I've seen it, but I also remember really enjoying William H. Macy in that movie.
Macy's great too, and there's a I don't want to get I can't give away the gags, but there's like some really hilarious gags that happen when they're doing the actual heist. It's like watching reverse Rafifi as far as like competency goes. So, which should be a term that thieves use. Yeah, it's going to be a reverse Rafifi. All right, Matt, back to you. What's your next pick?
So I kind of had to go back to my DNA for my site and everything and go with the Kickboxer remake. I thought, when I heard they were going to do a remake of Kickboxer, I was a little bit nervous, just because that old one was one of those classic, sleepover movies we'd always rent and watch, and I kind of always loved it kind of through there. But this one actually, I think, does a really great job. Some people might consider it a reboot too, so it's like a question, is it a remake or a reboot? But I think it follows enough of the original's DNA to be considered a remake. Alain Moussi, who's a stunt worker who is really great martial arts wise, he's really great stepping into the role. And then Van Damme now plays the sensei character, because I think Tony Jaa was supposed to play the sensei character, but he wasn't available. So they brought him in. Late Darren Shahlavi plays the older brother. And I liked seeing him in that as well. And then, of course, Bautista as Tong Po, I thought he did a really fantastic job too. And he made more sense as Tong Po than Michel Kisi. So I like that too. The sequel to it, I wasn't as big a fan of the sequel. It was a little bit bloated, especially the end fight went on for like a half hour. But this one here, I definitely like this. And, Alain Moussi, I'm hoping to see him do more stuff, just because he was really electric in this movie.
We're referring to Kickboxer Vengeance. Is that
I think it's Vengeance, yeah, because the other one's Retaliation.
Retaliation?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah. And I think they've got an Armageddon on the way as well. So yeah,
They're fighting for the world.
exactly. Yes, I think Scott Adkins might be in Armageddon. I believe he's
Well, that
rumored to be in
fits.
that one. Yeah. So
Get him or and I'm saying, have you seen Brent Foster in movies? This guy's
yes.
great. I've just been discovering him in Life After Fighting and a few other things now. And I'm like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, I got to see more of his stuff because he was one of those ones who came up in Seagal direct-to-video movies as the guy doing the heavy lifting. So there's always Seagal sitting, and then you'd have someone like a Brent Foster who would do all the actual, fights and everything. So yeah.
Retaliation. That one has Mike Tyson in it, right? That's the sequel.
Yes, Mike Tyson, Christopher Lambert has a small part in it. Yeah, the thing with they like, for example, Sarah Makalu Lane's character in the first movie, she's this sort of strong detective character, and they sideline her in the second movie. I think she gets shot, and they have to he has to rescue her or something. It's like she's kind of more just sort of sideline damsel in distress kind of thing, where she actually plays a part in affecting the end. And actually, they did a better job with her character in Vengeance than the original Kickboxer, where the love interest character, goes through some stuff that you wouldn't want in a movie like that. So I think that was also an improvement. And again, the sequel they didn't do as well with her in that one either.
Well, truly proving that you are the DTV connoisseur. Thank you for that entry on the list.
I haven't seen either of these remakes, and but the way you're talking about them makes me want to see them a lot. So they kind of sound like they're right up my alley.
Yeah, the first one, I think, yeah, I mean, the second one, it's a longer movie. It's almost like 2 hours, which I don't think any direct-to-video movie should be more than. Roger Corman said 88 minutes because that's 11 reels of 8 minutes per reel. But I know that number's not a good number, so I always say like 90 minutes is probably, especially now with digital, you don't need reels, so anything more than 90 minutes. But when it gets below that, like in the 80-minute range, I'm a huge fan, or like a good 1950s movie that's like 61 minutes. I'll go for that any day as well. But the second one, I think it's almost like they felt like the end fight where he's fighting this really big guy. They felt like it just needed to be epic, and it was really just 30 minutes of the two of them punching each other and then like spitting Hawaiian punch out, and it just sort of goes on, and it's like repetition. Whereas this one, it follows the original really faithfully. And again, Bautista is great as the baddie. It's got George St. Pierre plays a part in it as well. So it kind of and again, Alain Moussi, someone that I'd like to see do more stuff because he's really got electric martial arts. And again, he does more stunt stuff and then direct to video stuff, but he feels like he's someone who's on the come up. Who, it'd be good to kind of see him get some more roles.
George St. Pierre, you mean the star of Captain America, the Winter Soldier?
Exactly. That's what I forgot all about that. That's right. That's right.
All right. Dave, what's your next pick?
My next pick is 310 to Yuma.
Oh, that's one of mine. Okay.
No, that's one of mine too.
It's the remake of the classic 1957 film that originally starred Glenn Ford and Van Heflin, which itself is a great Western. And this one has Russell Crowe and Christian Bale and is directed by James Mangold. And 310 to Yuma is respectful to the spirit of the original while surpassing it in a lot of ways. And personally, I think it's the best American Western of the 21st century so far. And it's arguably one of Mangold's best movies. I think he's technically skilled and he's a good storyteller. He knows his way around an action film and a horse, without really forsaking the characters. And in this case, the adversarial relationship between struggling rancher Dan Evans and the outlaw Ben Wade is the crux of the film. And I'm not going to go into the plot because I think most people who've worked their metal already know it. But I really enjoyed all the performances in this film. Bale and Crowe really shine in these roles, especially the latter. Despite playing a ruthless murderer, Crowe makes Ben Wade a really likable guy. I know these two guys are notoriously cantankerous on the set, but I haven't heard any behind the scenes dirt about them on this one. But they're both really fun in these roles. They look like they're having fun in these roles. But the best performance might actually be, now that I think about it, by Ben Foster, who plays Ben Wade's sidekick, Charlie Prince.
It's the best most Ben Foster performance of the most best Foster performances.
I don't think I could have worded it better myself, Aaron. So
I'll
leave it at that.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I saw this movie in an early previews before I was a critic, and I was watching it to the point where and I was like writing, I was blogging at that point. I wasn't like professionally writing or whatever. And I was watching this movie, and I was getting to the end, and I was like, what's bad about this? Like I was trying to convince myself that this can't be a flawless film because I was enjoying so much. And then it gets to the end, which is quite emotional as far as the journey you watch versus like what the result is. And it's like this is like a perfect Western. Like I agree with you. I think this is if I had to look at all the Westerns that came out in the 21st century, I wouldn't be surprised if I had this at number one. I love this movie that much, and I absolutely think it's James Mangold's best movie. And I like Mangold quite a bit. I think he has a lot of great movies on his hand, but this movie's so good. The dialogue, I mean, it's adapted from Elmore Leonard, so obviously you're going to get like a great structure and dialogue here and there to begin with. And I like the original a lot there as well, but the writing here is so great. The performances from the kind of the chemistry that forms between Bale and Crowe, I think is so excellent. The gunfights are fantastic too. Like there's a lot of just great Western shootouts that feel like real Western shootouts where there's only so much fanning of the pistols, but there's a lot of like duck and cover and kind of things that happen when you're in a Western fight, which means guns don't work all that great and people have shit accuracy. The only one that I can feel is close to that in this kind of era is Open Range, where they're starting to like 10 feet apart and they can't hit each other because they're just shit shots. Like they can't do the work, but it like feels real. And yeah, this movie, like you're right as far as Crowe's so charismatic here, and it's supposed to be a fun kind of play on that where he's the black hat and he's the guy you can't stop watching, and Bale's like the stodgy white hat guy where you're like, wow, this guy has so much grief on his hands or whatnot. He's trying to just deal with this this other guy. I love this movie. I think it's so good.
I got nothing to add, man. I'm on the same page as the both of you. I think it's pretty handily Mangold's best film. This is a guy with a lot of great films, and it's if it's not number one in terms of like westerns of this century, it's certainly in the conversation for number one. Like I would say Open Range would be in that conversation too. I think
Underrated
probably
movie.
speaking, one of the Tarantinos would probably be in the conversation. Probably not the one you think. Um, but this is a perfect Western. And it's a perfect Western of a perfect remake uh, of an already great film.
Yeah.
And it's also just like peak Russell Crowe, right? Like Russell
Oh
Crowe
yeah.
in the 2000s, they weren't all hits, right?
No.
But that guy was at his charismatic peak from like 2001 to 2009. And this is one of the best examples of that. He's electric in every single scene, even and maybe especially the quietest scenes. He's absolutely electric. And it is, the one that put Ben Foster had been around for a while, but this is the one that really put him on the map as like a guy to watch. And and then just to top it all off, something I think we haven't really mentioned, but it's one of Peter Fonda's later performances, and
Yeah.
he's friggin' great
He's
as the
funny.
sort of grizzled, funny and as the grizzled old marshal who like is just like totally done with all of the BS. It's such a great role for him, right? It's such a like you could I don't know if it was or not, but it feels like a role that was written for Fonda
Yeah.
in the best way.
Yeah.
It's just a perfectly constructed film. Um, and I it's another one where like I'm just waiting for someone to put out like an amazing box set, like Arrow Video or someone to come up with an amazing thing for me to buy and have it on my shelf.
It has a cool 4K steelbook from Lionsgate. Like they've done about as much as I think they can with that movie at this point. But it
Is it like a Lionsgate Limited? Excuse me,
I think it came out before Limited was a thing, but there is a steelbook that came like I think it was like it's probably a Best Buy steelbook at that time when Best Buy still
was
wanted to
like the
make money.
exclusive. Yeah. So I don't own it on 4. I can tell you that the original, which I do own on 4K from Criterion, is also great.
Yeah, good
But
movie.
this is so like they're both worth watching. But yeah, the remake is a perfect movie. It's so good.
Yeah, I haven't seen so I haven't seen the original in probably 20 years or so. And the remake, as we're talking about it now, it's been since the late 2000s. So I probably need a rewatch of both of them. So I enjoyed both of them though, for sure. I think I must have seen the original again, maybe closer to when I rented or got, on Netflix, the new one. But yeah, I think '09, 2010, something like that's probably been, so like, what is that, like 15 years since I've seen them.
In a minute.
This one, I don't, maybe sort of a testament to how great it is. This is the movie I turned my daughter on to westerns, and she was a teenager when I first showed it to her, and she fell in love with it, and she fell in love with the genre because of this film. Um, so
Yeah, I think
there it
it's a
is.
good gateway Western for sure as well. I think it is a film that you could probably get a lot of people into the idea of watching more Westerns if this was like one of their first examples of one. It's weird that Western is somehow like a hard. It's like what Westerns? Like it's weird that that's like that of all genres, that's the one that's like, oh, that's a hard. I gotta really take a big step to want to watch one of those. But it's like, all right, it's they're entertaining films. There's a lot of them for a good reason. So,
I mean, hot take, I think the Western is probably the single most conducive to film like genre or setting. Like there's nothing you can't do with that. Uh, but that's a different podcast.
Well, and so many action movies are based off of Westerns.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe they use like a Raiders of the Lost Ark paradigm of like how much action, but it's like, every time they go into, a Seagal movie where they go into a sleazy bar or like, some Eastern European, nightclub or something, that's the saloon. You can see it right
Yeah.
there. And so, yeah, it's so many different elements of Westerns that you see in action movies now.
Or when Captain America stands against Red Skull. Anyway,
Yeah.
Matthew, what's your next pick?
Let's see. I was going to say 310 to Yuma. Uh, all right, so let's think. So film nerds will know this one, but I don't think everyone else does. But I'm going to say that maybe one of the greatest remakes is Heat, which is a remake of
Yeah,
LA Takedown by the same director, but for TV basically. LA Takedown is not a bad movie exactly. It just
it's not a
clearly
very good one.
it's not a very good one. It's clearly like made for TV with TV actors with TV budget. And Heat is an amazing update of that. Heat probably, at least among we film bros, one of the greatest, agreed to be one of the greatest films, at least of the last, I don't know, 30 years or whatever. But again, it's not one that I think the general public really thinks of as a remake, despite the fact that it is. Um, LA Takedown is a very interesting film to watch, especially if you watch it in any proximity to Heat.
Yeah.
Um, but it's an interesting film to watch. It's an interesting one to watch them both because you can sort of see like LA Takedown just ends up feeling like a first draft, and Heat is the finished product. And it's what else can you say? It's Heat. Everyone loves, not everyone, but 99% of people love Heat because it's a great film.
I mean, you just look at the leads of LA Takedown, whose names you cannot know without looking it up, and just realize, well, yeah, they don't have I mean, Rooker and Xander Berkeley, who plays Waingro in that one, like those are bigger names than the guys that play Hannah and Jesus Christ, De Niro's character. Who I think is a different name, right? Yeah, I'm looking it up now. Here it is.
Yeah, in it's
Patrick
yeah.
McLaren. So having a great name. But, man, these guys, Alex MacArthur and Scott Plank, good, healthy college try. But yeah, Heat is such a like, uh, it's you're like, there's no. It's a cinematic curiosity. There's no watching LA Takedown, and just knowing that there's this epic, 90s crime heist drama that has stars like I'm in Heat. Like everybody's in that movie. Like it's
Yeah.
like it has so many great performances.
It's
Uh,
interesting too because LA Takedown was
down to Bud
originally
Court as like bad runner of kitchen. Like,
yeah. It's interesting because LA Takedown was originally meant to be a pilot for a TV show, and then when it didn't get picked up, they just released it as a movie or reworked it, I guess, as a movie would be a better way to say it. But again, like it just feels like a first draft as compared to Heat, which is like, you know, whether you love it or hate it, and I know that I think probably all of us love it, I'm
I don't
guessing.
I don't trust anyone who doesn't.
you're being very
Yeah,
apologetic to Heat. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I think Heat's fine. I think we're fine
yeah,
with saying Heat's a great movie and not having to worry
yeah,
about hoarding controversy.
yeah, fair enough. But Heat is like another perfectly constructed movie. Like everything about the heist is excellent. Everything about the big shootout is excellent. Everything thematically to do with the two main characters is excellent. Um, and it's a far superior version of LA Takedown. Um, but I would still encourage people to see LA Takedown if they haven't. It is super interesting. And I also can't wait to see what they're going to do with Heat 2.
Have you read it? Have you read the book?
I have not read the book.
It's a cool book. Like
Yeah,
if they pull off what the book does, I'd be very impressed with like the movie. And given the talent that
interesting.
man is trying to get with like what DiCaprio and Driver and all these people, like okay, if he does it, great. Like I'll be curious what a 2020, I don't know, 8 Michael Mann's Heat looks like compared to 1995's Michael Mann's Heat, but I mean, the writing's there and the talent's there. Hopefully, he can bring it on as a direct, and like if he gets a budget, like hopefully
I
he can
mean,
make it work.
it does seem like Heat 2 is going to be another one of the like, oh, everybody is in this kind of movies, which is exciting in and of itself.
This is like the reason you want another Heat movie, right? You want to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. Heat has this great ensemble, and
And like everyone seems to not just like everyone's in it, but everyone who's in it seems to want to be a part of it, which is
exactly.
always exciting. So yeah, turns out Heat's a good movie and you should watch it. And it is also a remake. Who knew?
Um, all right. Next is my better than, and it was going to be 310 to Yuma, but that's been taken. So I'm gonna go with The Fly. Little known film. No, David Cronenberg's The Fly, 1986, the year I was born. It's it's amazing. The original Fly with Vincent Price among others, it's a fun B movie, and it gives you the sight of a human-sized man with a fly head, and I'm like, I need more of this in my life, but I'm sorry, this version of it with David Cronenberg is leagues better. Jeff Goldblum, another I think Oscar-worthy performance that he's giving here, and the various evolutions of man that he becomes, or man to fly that he becomes. Gina Davis also just fantastic here. The the body horror at play and the stages it takes, where some David Cronenberg films, he's happy to kind of let it happen very instantly, or have exploding heads, or do something that's, I don't know, more creatively abstract. This is pretty straightforward as far as the metamorphosis this character is going through, but it's so like the stages you see of Jeff Goldblum kind of slowly, not degrading, but just becoming this other thing, and watching the way his attitude evolves. Where first he becomes just like really muscular and like strong because he has fly strength compared to like the body, but then like the hairs start to grow in his arms, and he starts to losing the teeth, and the skin. It's just like watching that kind of the way he's going in a different direction based on this thing, that in all essence works. I mean, it did in fact make a transporting device that actually works, as long as you close the door in time before anything else gets in the way. But yeah, the work here, the fact that it's this like weird relationship drama between Goldblum and Gina Davis, I think is quite compelling. The the various kind of sci-fi constructs at play and whatnot. It's all just a really, this could have just been like a gore fest for the sake of gore fest, because Cronenberg knows how to throw stuff at the screen and make you really feel the visceral nature of it. But instead he has a pretty emotional story that ends tragically, and but gives you this great kind of acting journey along the way. So I mean, not new information to say The Fly is a great movie, but The Fly is a great movie.
I mean,
No
who knew?
argument here.
It's funny because this was also on my list. Because again, great movie, but I'm not convinced that a lot of people know that it is in fact a remake. Uh, and the original is a fun B movie. But the 86 is an all-timer for sure.
Nowadays, I think people are less, because it's going back, because movies don't exist before Jaws or something. I think is that how people regard films when it comes to youngsters. But I think there's more awareness, but compared to L.A. Takedown, I think there's more awareness that there's like some other version of The Fly they just never bother to watch.
Yeah,
Uh,
fair enough.
Especially because the Simpsons parodied it, and when the Simpsons do it, it means something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think the original played on local TV when the new one came out. Because I do kind of remember that. I mean, I wasn't that old either. 86, I was 6 or 7. I mean, I remember the commercials for The Fly, and thinking like, I'm not going to see that. That's too scary. But then the Vincent Price one was on TV, and I just sort of watched it. And then later, when I was a little bit older, I came back and watched the Cronenberg one. I think because I watched Crash and really loved Crash, and thought, okay, what's some other Cronenberg I can find? Naked Lunch, and then Fly was on that list.
What's
as well.
exactly like this? I know, The Fly.
I was like, well, did you ever get like that thing? I would always get on. My friend would call them kicks, where it's like, oh,
for sure.
I like Cronenberg, so I'm on a Cronenberg kick. And I'm
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
yeah. But you're right. Like, it was definitely not like, I was. It's not like if you like Crash, you'll like Fly, right? Definitely for sure.
The Fly 2, by the way, the sequel to The Fly, gross.
Really gross.
It's really, really gross.
Yeah.
But I still can't handle that dog euthanasia scene. That one.
There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff. Even though the baboon or the monkey, there's a lot of gross stuff in these Fly movies. Like Cronenberg really set a standard for all of this.
Yeah, Cronenberg is the guy for all of this.
Yeah. All right, we've each done 3 so far. You guys all got a couple more? Can we keep going?
To be fair, I have it out in about 15 minutes.
All right.
So we could maybe do one more.
You can do one more. Is that cool?
Sure.
All right, let's keep going then. Matt, what's your next one?
So I went with a little bit outside the box for this one because it's partially a remake, but it's partially also something that Roger Corman, speaking of Roger Corman from before, that he would do, where he would take a concept of a movie and just make a new movie that was based off that concept. And this one is Black Mama, White Mama, which is based off the Defiant ones. And it's shot in the Philippines. Jonathan Demme co-wrote it. I love Pam Grier in this movie. I love the stuff that she was doing with Corman at that time. And I like this take on the Defiant ones. The Defiant ones was another one that was on TV a lot growing up. So you kind of just always would see it with, Sidney Poitier and Anthony Curtis. And so this version here, again, it kind of fits my sensibilities for direct-to-video, even though it wasn't technically direct-to-video, but, shot in the Philippines on a budget, that kind of thing. And Corman did this a lot, where he would take a concept of a movie, and like Blood Fist 2 is essentially just Enter the Dragon, with Donna Dragon Wilson. He would do a lot of that. Another director who's no longer with us, unfortunately, Daniel Zarrilli, would do something similar where he would take the concept of a movie and then just make his new version based off of it. And I think out of those kinds of movies, this is my favorite version of that, or favorite one of those kinds of movies.
Very good. I haven't seen Black Mamba, White Mama, but cool. I am, of course, a fan of the Defiant Ones. It's a big old classic.
I have not seen this one either, so I have nothing to say. But it'll go on my list because I do like the Defiant Ones.
It is a title I'm very aware of because it's called Black Mama, White Mama. I'm like, that's fun. that's a very blaxploitation title right there for you.
Well, and if you like some of those Philippine, sort of like that kind of that area, you'll give people like Vic Diaz in it, or Vic Diaz, some of those names that you might recognize. You'll see them. Sid Haig is in it as well. So you see some of those people in it too. You get some of those hallmarks too.
I didn't realize Jackie Brown was a Pam Grier Sid Haig reunion movie.
That's exactly right.
All right, all right. Dave, what's your next pick?
Okay, pretty late in the game, I've really been getting into a lot of French thrillers from the 60s and 70s lately. And one of them I really enjoyed was from 1971, and it's called The Burglars. It stars Jean-Paul Belmondo, who I've really taken a shine to, and I've checked out of a lot of his films lately. It also has Omar Sharif and Diane Cannon, and it's a remake of a 1957 American film simply called The Burglar, which I haven't actually seen, so I can't really compare the two, but I can certainly recommend this one, especially to anyone who loves heist thrillers or anyone who's interested in checking out one of the greatest car chase sequences that no one ever talks about.
You have my attention.
Belmondo plays a guy named Azad, and he and his crew break into this wealthy tycoon's house and make off with $1 million in emeralds. But the ship that Azad chartered for their getaway is out of commission, so they're stuck in town until it can be repaired. So they plan to lay low for a few days, which becomes difficult because there's a corrupt cop played by Sharif who confronts him and demands the jewels for himself. And it's an antagonistic game of one-upsmanship between these two. And it's really entertaining. And both actors are clearly having a lot of fun in their roles. But what really elevates the film are the action sequences. The car chase that I mentioned before is really thrilling. And with numerous wide camera shots, you can tell they shot this car chase in the middle of town while everyone's going about their business. And it's destructive, it's lengthy, and these cars dodging traffic. We're right there in the seats with these people as well. And that car chase is the work of professional drivers. But the other scenes, Belmondo is obviously doing his own stunts, which apparently he did for a lot of his films. So when his character is hanging off the speeding city bus, that's really him. Or when he gets poured from a dump truck down a massive hill, Belmondo did that stunt himself, and he was a huge huge star in France at the time. And to engage in such stunts without special effects, that's some severe dedication. And I don't know how they insured this guy to do this stuff, but I really appreciated that dedication to the film. The story and concept are pretty familiar, and the opening heist, which is kind of wordless, kind of like the heist when opens the film, is really neat, and the action sequences are just a lot of fun. I never heard of this film until I was sent the Blu-ray to review, and I really enjoyed it. It's pretty good. It's really good.
Great.
Excuse me.
It's on my list.
It is great. The Blu-ray comes with the French cut, the American cut, and the French cut is 10 minutes longer and definitely is the better of the two.
Great. Good. Add it to list. Matthew, what's your last one here?
I had a couple written down, and I think I'm just going to go with my favorite movie of all time, which is Airplane. which is a remake of a film called Zero Hour.
Perfect.
Uh,
I guess that
um,
counts.
like Airplane is a classic Zucker Abrams Zucker screwball slapstick spoof comedy. Um, and it is a totally different, but also exactly the same as Zero Hour, right down to the exclamation point at the end of the title. Um, I don't know if you guys have actually seen Zero Hour, but it is actually shockingly pretty great.
It's
Like as
yeah, it's a good
like
movie,
it's a
It is a good
solid
movie.
like thriller,
but
and
it
it is
certainly
amazing.
I was just
Sorry, go
gonna.
ahead.
It gave me like a Kaiser Soze moment where I'm like watching. It's like this is like airplanes. It's like doing this movie. Like it is
Oh yeah,
very.
this is where I was going, is that it is amazing when you watch Zero Hour, and then if you've seen Airplane recently or if you watch it in close proximity, it is amazing how much of Airplane is just exactly the same as Zero Hour, but like nudged slightly to one side to be funny. Like so much of the dialogue is exactly the same, or like maybe there's one extra line to make the scene funny. It's kind of incredible how close they are. Um, but Airplane's my favorite movie of all time, so I felt I need to include it. And it is obviously the better film. And it stood the test of time.
Yes.
Um, and it, also Zero Hour originally aired on Canadian TV, so there's my northern tie-in. There you go.
Nice. There you go.
Airplane. You should definitely watch it, even though it was made in 1980, so it's slightly problematic by today's standards. But that's fine as long as you can acknowledge that, and because it's still, I think, maybe the funniest movie ever made.
You know what was
Hey,
cool about this is 40 years later, or yeah, I still notice things in that film that I never paid it, never noticed before. And the last time I watched it, that scene where the nose of the plane crashes into the airport terminal.
Hmm.
It wasn't until the last time I watched it, and I'd already seen it like at least 10 times before that. Uh, I noticed that one of the people fleeing is a woman who throws her baby into the air in an effort to get away, and I never noticed that. And all the times I watched it until then, so there's always something new to find in that film.
My favorite one of those kinds of things is about 5 or 6 years ago. For the first time, I noticed there's a scene where Johnny, the sort of screwball character in the control tower, a bunch of reporters show up and stick microphones in his face as he says some stuff. And if you look closely, one of the microphones is an ice cream cone. Like it
Yeah.
is so dumb, but it is also so
I remember this one was on TV. My parents were watching it. They wanted me to watch it with them, and I was too young to get it. I was like maybe 5 or 6. And I remember, like, for example, those scenes where he crashes and they show like old footage of planes crashing and stuff like that. I was just like, well, that's not good that that happened. And they're like, no, no, that's the joke. It's like, why are they slapping that woman? I'm like, so like I had to come back and revisit it, of course, when I get older. And now it's like, yeah, it's one of those ones that like, usually my wife and I, if we need like a nice, like I don't know, kind of escape for a little while and just need to laugh. It's like either like a Christopher Guest movie or it's Airplane, something like that. And so, yeah, it just always works.
Yeah. I do sometimes wonder how some of the pop culture references hit for anyone who wasn't around in the 80s.
Well, I mean, a
That'd
good.
be an interesting conversation because like, not everyone remembers the like Maxwell House. That's funny. Jim never has a second cup of coffee at home type stuff.
I'd argue those are at a minimum though. Like, there's not many pop. Like, they're
No, and I think that's actually what allows it to sort of stand the
it's
test of
yeah,
time
it's
in a
just
way that
comedy,
like,
comedy,
yeah, in a way that many of the like 90s versions of this genre don't, because they're so heavily reliant on pop culture in the moment.
and the 2000s ones absolutely don't because there's not even a joke. It's just pointing at a thing that existed in this moment, and then there's no punchline. It's just like they showed you a thing, and then it's like
I mean,
it
it's not a mistake that the best scary movie,
is the first
the
scary
best of
movie.
no, actually, I would say the best of the scary movies is like the fourth one, I think, because that's the one that Zucker
The
directed.
third one, which I
Yeah.
would disagree, I it's okay. We don't have to go through scary movies either, as much like we don't have to go over the Russo's brothers.
No, no. And to be fair, none of those movies are very good, so it's
None
fine.
of them are like particularly great. But I do. My point was the first scary movie is it's the least reliant on pop culture. It has
Yeah.
stuff in there. But it's being directly a parody of Scream, and I Know You Did Last Summer, as opposed to being like, and now there's all these other things that are also stuff of the day that happen to be
Yeah. I mean, these films really do need, I think the reason Airplane remains the sort of masterwork is that they do really need a solid framework to be funny,
it's like
to
Top
work
Secret
from.
works so well too.
And it's why Top Secret works. It's why Police Squad
Yeah,
and The Naked Gun works so well because they're like a direct parody of a specific like 50s police procedurals. Um, and I feel like a lot of the later ones don't necessarily have that, right? Like I think Hot Shots movies are pretty good. You
yeah,
know, one being Top Gun, the other one being Rambo 3 specifically.
yeah.
Um, but even them they're a little too reliant on like contemporary politics and contemporary of the moment pop culture to really sort of stand the test of time in the same way. So yeah, Airplane, funniest movie of all time. There, it's on the record.
All right. My last one here, I'm gonna cheat a bit because I had I still had horror and remake of a bad movie. So I'm just gonna get remake of a bad movie out of the way. I was just gonna say Ocean's 11. Um, the first Ocean's 11 has the Rat Pack. That's nice. It's a boring ass movie. It's not very good. Soderbergh does leagues with it, makes it way better. Okay, my horror movie I have is Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978.
Good
Um,
choice.
Hmm.
this is a fantastic film. First, the 50s invasion of the body, and we had a 90s one, we had a forgettable Nicole Kidman one. We're due for another one, which feels like reality, like something's happened in the White House. But regardless, the 70s Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a fantastic film, top to bottom. Philip Kaufman makes a creepy as hell movie that's rated PG, no less. Donald Sutherland in peak. Somehow this gaunt, tall guy is somehow a heartthrob like Elliot Gould, and that's what we're dealing with kind of era. He's a perfect lead here as Professor Cool, going around with Brooke Adams trying to figure out what's going on here. Well, and Jeff Goldblum, no, just another Jeff Goldblum movie, by the way. Um, the world's getting taken over, or at least like the East Coast is getting taken over by spores, and we don't know what to do. The paranoia aspect is so fitting of the obviously we have the more kind of political conspiracy theory driven political thriller conspiracy paranoia thrillers like I don't know, Three Days of the Condor and what's the Warren Beatty movie that I'm not forgetting?
Parallax View.
Thank you, Parallax View. This one is, a little more obviously, sci-fi directed, but still in that same kind of spirit of just something's not right in the world. And obviously there's parallels you can make with the time and everything. But it's so effective. The effects are terrific. They're terrifically creepy. Like just seeing the like stuff on the leaves of the plants and how it's like slowly spreading, or obviously the when you get body snatched and what that means and everything. It's just like, oh, this is gross to watch, or when they like start hammering some of them and they're all gooey and nasty. And then it has like subtle horror too. There's a shot of a random cameo by the late Robert Duvall, just on a swing as a priest, just kind of staring at things, and it's like, this is creepy. This is creepier than anything I've seen in any horror movie of recent years. I think the movie is fantastic. It's a great update of the 50s one. It has a great like reference to the 50s one by having that star kind of run through the frame at one point as if he's been running for 20 years trying to warn people about this. It has one of my all-time favorite horror endings easily.
Absolutely.
That
Hmm.
also creepy. The music that's really weird and like off key and whatnot. It's great. Everything about this movie I think rules.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's because everything about this movie, and this is true, rules. And I say that as a guy who like I actually really love the 50s one too. I
Yeah, it's a
think
great movie.
my only problem with the 50s one is that it wraps up in kind of too tidy of a bow at the end. I really love the I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but like it's got kind of a bummer ending. And I
Mhm.
feel like the end of the 50s one is a little bit like, and then everything was fine, you know? And this one does not go that way. And this is another one of those ones, that I feel is a pretty evergreen premise. Like there was a reason it's been remade in the 90s and the zeros. And I think you're right. I think we're overdue for yet another remake.
Yeah,
Um,
if we get Stars Born every 20 years, we should get another Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
yeah.
That's the rule.
Or hear me out. Legacy sequel.
Kiefer Sutherland stars.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a world ruined by or saved and or ruined by the invasion. I would watch the hell out of that. But yeah, it's another one that's like and it's also like I don't know a better way to phrase this off the top of my head, but it's kind of like a perfect 70s movie.
Yeah, I
It's
can see that. Yeah.
it's like it's got that sort of tone, it's got that little bit of griminess about the way that it's shot and the way people behave, and it's in a way that I really appreciate that I feel like we don't get a lot of anymore today. It's a little bit slow while still being utterly compelling, like a lot of 70s sci-fi is a little bit on the it sounds like a negative word, I don't mean it to be, but languid side. Things are like
It's
takes a
deliberately
little
paced.
deliberately paced would be the polite way to put it, yes. But in a way where like you couldn't if you made it any other way, it would either be too slow or too fast. It's sort of perfectly paced as well. So yeah, this is an incredible movie. I'm glad somebody else brought it up.
There's no way I could have mentioned this one because this was just nightmare. As a kid, the music just when you mentioned the music, Aaron, it just immediately just creeped me out and just thought as a kid like having to change the channel as quickly as possible. To like and of course that was before we had a remote, so it was like I think at that point maybe the black and white that I was playing the Atari on had the knobs had fallen off, so you had to use the wrench to, it's like however I could get to the channel changed as fast as I could when, I realized the Attack of the Body Snatchers. Something like that was on. But the moment you mentioned that music, I immediately started to go try to change the channel. It's still hardwired in me all these years later.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another one that, you said it's the perfect 70s movie, but at the same time, it's aged really well. This one, along with Alien, is one of those I once again showed my daughter, and it just totally freaked her out. And she'd already seen stuff like The Thing and The Fly and some of the other, more brutal films, but that ending just really got to her.
Yeah, the creeping dread, and yes, the fact that it does end on such a bummer note, it's like, yeah, it just does the job for sure. All right. Well, Matthew, I know you have to take leave. Would you like to add any plugs before you head out on your way?
Yeah. So first of all, I will take this opportunity to answer the question,
Oh,
the exit
sure.
question, which is what would you like to see remade? And I'm going to cheat and say I think it would be better served by a legacy sequel. But either way, The Last Starfighter is my answer.
Okay.
I would love to see that movie followed up on in any way. I think it's a perfect 80s kids / teenager / made for me specifically movie. So that's my answer. In terms of plugs, yes, I write freelance. You can find me in lots of places. Find me on the socials. My current project, though, I've started a new publication. It is called The Northern Reel, Northern Reel, and I am focusing very specifically and exclusively on the cinema of Canada, and it is going really well, actually. I was injured and sick this whole week, so I didn't actually post a lot this week. But in the last couple of weeks, we've got some great film reviews from me and some of my other writer colleagues. I got to interview Colm Feore, which I thought went really well, and it's a really interesting and insightful interview about Canadian film. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff. We're building up to the Canadian Screen Awards, which are at the end of next month. So there's lots of interesting and good stuff coming because Canada makes a ton of great films, and I don't feel like we don't talk about them enough. So I'm doing my very, very small part to rectify that.
Well, as one of the world's biggest Hundreds of Beavers fans, I wish you many beavers.
Thank you so much. I accept them. I accept that in the spirit with which it was given.
Very good. All right, Matthew, I believe you got to take off now. So good to hear from you as always. Hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. I will see you guys later. It's been a pleasure as always.
Great. And yeah, before we move on, let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
You are about to witness history in the making.
Hi there, this is Todd from Forgotten Films, and if you spend all your time watching new releases, then you need to broaden your movie horizons. And a great way to do that is by joining me for the Forgotten Filmcast. We don't talk about the new releases, we don't even talk about the classics. We talk about the movies that time forgot. On each episode, I'm joined by another film blogger to discuss a film that may or may not be worth rediscovering. So look for the Forgotten Filmcast on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts.
Okay. Now we're going to get to, as Matthew just kind of runs into, is our exit question for today. Movies we would like to see remade. What is a film that you would like to see be remade? Matt, let's start with you.
So I don't know if this would count, but I'd like to see I'm drawing a blank on the name of it now. Suddenly, the one, the movie, the Blind Side. I don't know why I was trying. My head was thinking the big one, but I'd like to see the Blind Side remade from Michael Orr's standpoint.
Okay.
And I don't know if it would be too different to be a remake, but I feel like there's a lot to mine there because he put out a book and explained that like a lot of what was in that movie, and I think there's an ESPN expose, wasn't really accurate. And the book that, of course, that came out about it wasn't accurate. So I'd like to see the Blind Side, redone, from his standpoint.
I think you could do something with that that's either like a social thriller, like a Get Out, or like a satire. Looking at it from the black character's point of view and seeing it either as like this horror movie that's kind of like of the things going around you, or at least something thrillery, or yes, like an over-the-top satire where you're watching this white lady be like super kind or whatnot, like all these like histrionic things happening. I think there's something there that would be kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, I wonder too if Sandra Bullock, how she would, if she could reprise the role and play it completely different.
I mean, that'd be the ultimate get if that would actually.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Well, Dave, how about you? What's a movie you'd like to see remade?
I'd like to see Logan's Run remade.
Yeah, right.
This film. I love this film as a kid, but it's certainly a product of its time and far from a great film. But the basic premise has always been really cool, and cool enough that an updated version would be interesting. Maybe one that's a little more faithful to the original book. I know the prospect of remaking it has been on and off over the years, and right now I don't know if it's on or off again, but I think that one's overdue for an update.
I know Bryan Singer, a director who's never done anything wrong, was attached for a long time to be remaking Logan's Run, but I think it's currently in development limbo once again. But I completely agree. I think that's a story that's ripe for doing something with, especially now, and the kind of the way you can detail people who are trying to kind of maintain a youth to some degree, and how that can apply to like influencers or this kind of era that we're in.
And maybe not shot in a shopping mall this time, since there's no more shop.
But still have a weird ice volcano or whatever the hell is that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. On the contrary, there's so many shopping malls that are going defunct that they've probably got plenty of places they could shoot, I guess. I don't know.
Well, that's where they shoot the outside world or whatever of the Logan's Run. The runners that have made it.
Right.
Old malls.
That'd be a great reference to the original film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one in my pocket that I've had for the longest of times, so much so that I have to update the actor I'd want to play this. But I'd love to see a remake of the movie M done by the Coen brothers. And I used to say that Steve Buscemi would be my Peter Lorre character, but I think Steve Buscemi's now a little old to play the child abductor / murderer. So I guess I don't know, like Barry Keoghan might be like a good sub in there. He's got a weird face. He could be the new something you want to say to Barry Keoghan. Look, we want you for this role. You have a weird face. But no, I love M's one of my favorite movies. I love M, Fritz Lang's 1930s-ish movie. And I always thought the Coens could like just apply their starkest of filmmaking sensibilities to something like this, and then like get one of their guys. But again, nowadays I'd have to recast because it's been I've thought about this for a long time about how it goes. So, but I think that'd be and now I mean we just had like Weapons, like movies like this where child abduction and things like that are, I don't want to say in vogue, but certainly there's a precedent for setting movies around this kind of a thing and having it thematically connect to parts of reality. There's something there that I think you could be doing with a movie like M, and like what's it Mob Mentality, that kind of thing. There's a lot you can kind of feed off of, I think.
Yeah, I think if they were going to come back together to make something, that's the thing that I would want to see them do. It's been interesting to see what their movie output has been like since they split. And yeah, if we're going to bring them back together, this is the kind of thing I'd want to see them do.
Yeah, well, one hopes. They are supposed to, do something after Ethan makes his final film in his lesbian thriller trilogy thing that he's got going on here. But we shall see. All right, well, As we wrap up here, it's time for plugs. Dave, let's start with you. What would you like to plug?
Okay, on Free Kittens Movie Guide, we're trying our best to keep physical media alive and well. We've got upcoming 4K reviews of Blue Thunder, which is coming out from
Ooh.
Arrow, Fallout Season 2, and what I think is the most overlooked movie of the year, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die.
All right. Very good. Matt, how about you?
Direct Video Connoisseur. The site is dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. That's where we have reviews, links to the podcast, letterbox page, YouTube, all of that is there as well. The podcast every Tuesday night, Eastern Time US, we drop, talk about either new direct to video movies or ones from the past. And then my newest novel, Mark in Sales, is available Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, and in paperback. It follows Mark, who's a salesperson who sells cut rate health insurance, and he makes a lot of money doing it, but he starts to see that one, it's taking time away from his family and causing stress there, but then also he starts to realize that the employees of these companies that buy this cut rate health insurance, they're going through a lot with missing providers, things not covered. And so he has this sort of the dilemma of, do I keep doing this? Then the company offers him the promotion he's always wanted. So now it's whether or not he takes that promotion.
Very cool. All right. Everything I do can be found on my personal Substack page, thecodeiszeek.substack.com. I write for We Of Entertainment for movie reviews. I co-host a couple of podcasts. One is called Out Now with Aaron and Abe. Abe and I discuss movies on a weekly basis of other film critics and film fanatics. And of course, there's the other podcast I host, Two Black Guys Talk Godzilla, an award-winning podcast where my friend and fellow film critic Terrence Johnson and I discuss Godzilla films in chronological order. And I'm on all the socials at Aaron's PS4. And that's going to do it. Once again, thanks to everyone here for listening to the Lambcast, part of the Lamb, aka the large association of movie blogs. I have been Aaron Neuwirth, subbing in for your regular host, Richard Kirkham. I can already hear him forcing himself back to captain the ship again, as he can't handle this 5-time draft winner's presence any longer. So I'll just say so long, and thanks for all the fish. Also, thank you to all the listeners. Thank you to my guests this week, Matt, Matthew, and Dave. And may your remakes be as refreshing as ever. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Lambcast. If you have an idea for a show or would like to join us on the Lambcast, contact us at largeassmovieblogs.com. Find us on Facebook, just search for Lambcast, or on X, formerly Twitter, at Lambcast. And you can find us on YouTube as well. The Lamb site can be found at largeassmovieblogs.com. We'd also love it if you would leave a review on iTunes.
Ha 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 ha